Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, July 11th, 2025. I am Dave Biddle. I'll be joined by Jonah Booker in just a moment. BTA Fridays back in full effect after we took last week off for the 4th of July. Man, I tell you what, I'm fascinated by this stuff, this NIL clearinghouse. I think it's a bombshell report. I know maybe I should call it massive, right? But seriously, this is bombshell report yesterday that nearly 100% of NIL deals from collectives are getting shot down by this NIL clearinghouse. Yeah, it's a little ironic I'm wearing a The Foundation shirt, but and like I'm curious to get Jay Book's thoughts on this. Just him following the sport as closely as he does, him being a former college football player himself. Is this really going to hold up in court? Not that we're lawyers, but man, I don't know how this is going to hold up in court. But we'll get to that. Also, are people sleeping on Carlos Loughlin's running back room? He seems to think so. I don't think we are here at the Bucknuts Morning 5. We're still basking, and we know that even though you're losing 2 early second-round picks, 2 studs in Q and Trey, I like that room. We're going to get into that. And then we have a source who I trust very much, who we quoted in the boarding house today, and very reasonable. He thinks Julian Sain's going to be a really good quarterback here at Ohio State. He just questions when, and he thinks this year we're going to miss Will Howard. And we're going to get into his comments about that. Not that he's sounding the alarms or anything, but he thinks we might miss Will Howard here a little bit. All right. Before we bring Jay Book in, we'll let you guys know about Brunt work boots. Look at these things. They're fantastic. Brunt has designed the best work boots on this here planet. I'm not exaggerating. They have designed boots that withstand the toughest job sites while feeling as comfortable as your favorite sneakers. They also look great. So even for podcasters like me, I throw them on with some jeans. People are like, those are nice boots. And I tell them, yeah, Brunt. I can get you a good deal. These are the most comfortable work boots you will have ever tried. But they also deliver real performance on the job. Brunt is so confident these boots will blow you away. They even let you try it on the job risk-free. All right, they also have other great products like their weather-resistant jackets, pants, and much more. Right now, our listeners can get $10 off by using code Bucknuts at checkout. Just head to bruntworkwear.com, use code Bucknuts, and you're all set. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. All right. Let's bring in the one and only, my good friend, Jonah Booker. Jay Book, great to see you on a Friday, my friend.
Hey, good to see you, my friend.
So, okay, yeah. I don't think there's any way. I mean, first of all, I can't believe that nearly 100% of the NIL deals through collectives are getting shot down by this clearinghouse. And this is coming from the Utah State of all places, the Utah State, the director of their collective.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have Brian Schottenstein on the show next week. He's going to talk more about this stuff. But okay, it sounds good and everything. And I'm fully aware of the House settlement was approved by a federal judge. But still, man, I think the first time a student, a player, his deal gets rejected and he takes it to court, I would bet anything that the court will side with the player. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's just a matter of time until someone high profile, like a Jeremiah Smith, a Caleb Downs, says, hey, how can you reject my deal, which the open market is saying I'm worth this amount of money? And truth be told, those guys who are very high profile for their school, they're probably worth more to their university and school than what they're being paid. Here's the one thing that's going to really throw a wrench in the machine, Dave. I'm seeing New Jersey just recently passed it. And if all the states start to do something like this, it's going to be absolute chaos. What you have now, New Jersey just this week passed legislation that says the NCAA nor this NIL Go can penalize schools for NIL violations, supposedly violations. So once the state legislators get involved and says, hey, it's illegal in our state for you to come in here and penalize Rutgers or somebody like that in order for you to try to make a point. So where does it go now? I don't know, Dave. It's all a mess right now. I mean, coaches, they had the Big 12 media days this week, and coaches down there, half the coaches are basically saying, we don't even know the rules. We don't even know what's going on right now. And here's the thing with this collective thing, Dave. It's one thing to say, hey, we're going to deny it because we believe that your deal is way over the top. It's inflated. But the single fact that they're denying everything tells me it's just not one particular team that are writing faulty deals. It's just that everybody across the board are writing deals that can't pass through here. So how do you get them? How do you get them through the machine? Nobody knows right now, because if people knew, there would be somebody that's saying, "Hey, our deals are getting approved. This is what we're doing to do it. You guys should kind of copy paste what we're doing in order to get our deals approved." And that's not the case.
Yeah, and I get what some people in the chat are saying, but like again, like what J Book is saying, yeah, you can say Congress is on the side of what Ross wants to do. We have another commenter that says, "Where's all the people that are we're questioning Ross?" Like, listen, we're like in the first quarter or the first minute of the first quarter here. Okay, we're at the very start of the game here. Again, I'm convinced. I wish we could bet on this. The first time an athlete takes this to court, he's going to win. What was J Book just saying? He was saying that these states are going to start having their own rules, and that's why NIL got started in the first place. That and the Supreme Court's decision. So if you're going to use precedent with the House settlement, okay, I think the Supreme Court's decision 4 years ago would completely dwarf that of a federal judge, just signing off on a settlement. So, and their language was crystal clear. Alton versus NCAA, crystal clear. The Supreme Court unanimous decision 4 years ago. So Tennessee's another one. You mentioned Jersey. Tennessee's already saying that they're going to make waves. That the Tennessee state legislature, they're going to do everything they can to make sure that these deals do not get rejected. And if they do, they're going to take them to court. So you're right, man. And if Ohio tends to play by the rules, that's not good, because you're going to have other states that don't. The whole thing's a mess. Tennessee made it worse.
Tennessee's kind of the one that really started this whole domino effect. Because you remember when Tennessee got in trouble, they took the NCAA to court, sued them, won. And after that, that just kind of opened up Pandora's box for everyone to say, "Oh, wait, the NCAA is not really powerful. We just need to go and sue them in our local state jurisdiction." And then boom, everything's thrown out. But here's the crazy thing about where the game is at now and where Ohio State is at. We don't know who's going to be on the right side of history here, Dave, because you make a valid point that there's no way that this is going to be able to be held up in court. So what you essentially have is there's a lot of teams out there who 100% agree with your assessment. So what are those teams doing? They're going crazy, front loading a lot of these deals, and they're banking that, hey, you're not going to be able to penalize us because this will not stand up in court. You also have the other side of it, kind of where Ohio State is being more fiscally conservative. They're kind of seeing how things play out. And I think that's the right approach, because it's absolutely the wild, wild west. Now, once you get past that, there is another layer about, okay, today's price is going to consistently go up when it comes to these recruits. So it's all going to be transactional regardless of the relationships. Now, if you're Ohio State and you have guys that you really love on your board, you spent a significant amount of time recruiting these players, getting to know their families, their high school coach, their barber, traveling to go see them. At what point do you say maybe one, maybe two guys at a position of need? Do we go and spend a little bit more than what we normally would because this is a must-get player or a guy that we love on our board? That's one of my biggest questions. But I don't disagree overall with the philosophy of Ohio State when it comes to their big picture approach. Like, hey, let's not go crazy like USC and Texas Tech and those other programs. However, if everybody's going 85, nobody's being policed right now, maybe we can go 75 and kind of teeter that line. And that's where Ohio State was kind of struggling with that balance the first go around. Remember that, Dave?
Yeah.
You and I had Brian on here several times. We also did Twitter Spaces with Coach Day. We also did Twitter Spaces with Brian Schottenstein. And that was kind of that sweet spot that they were trying to figure out. It was like, okay. And Coach Day even said it. Coach Day kind of at the time said, we're a little too conservative here. We don't want to be the one red car that's out in front speeding so that we can get popped. However, if everybody is speeding, we need to be right there with the flow of traffic so that we're not falling too far behind.
I'm going to get to a question. I think a lot of people, first of all, I want to say to Emily and Robert, anybody else who has strong feelings about this, the other way, I hope you guys are right and I'm wrong. I hope you're right. I've been calling for guardrails. I just don't, even though a federal judge signed off on this settlement, again, the Supreme Court's the highest court in the land, and the language is crystal clear. Hopefully I'm wrong and you guys are right. But Emily has a good question here. Please explain why they would go through this whole process if they can't enforce the rules and such. Like, why go through all this if they're just going to get sued and lose? I think they believe, like Ross Bjork believes that this is going to hold up. I just disagree with him on that.
Yeah, they believe it, and they think that, I'm not going to say every school agrees with this process. This is their way to have at least some form of guardrails. Will it work? I don't know. The problem is, when you have one entity that is reviewing everything for all of these schools across the country, it's going to create a massive bottleneck. I was just reading this week, you had an SEC player signed a contract, and it was a legitimate NIL deal contract, and he was going to be doing some local events on behalf of this contract, and it wasn't anything big, and they submitted it to the NIL Go, haven't even got a response back because it's taking so long to get these things reviewed. The event has long gone past. Now, if you're this recruit, do you look and say, hey, I'm suing you because I can no longer collect my money because you held up my contract and I wasn't able to fulfill my obligations with a deal that was fair market deal. It's a straight NIL where I was going to be participating in a local event for whatever business that had hosted it. And I cannot recoup that money because I was a no-show. That's where you start to get tricky because you have to be able to create an efficient machine to be able to get all of these deals through in a timely manner. I mean, when you're working with contracts and corporate, there's an ETA. You need to be able to churn and burn. Yes, things may take a little bit of time, but you have to be able to have a drop dead time. Like, I need to be able to get these contracts reviewed and a decision made within 72 hours, just spitballing. And if it's taking 3 weeks, then that right there is going to be a massive, massive delay on trying to get these deals done. So what do you have? Are you just going to be having a bunch of these kids playing for free, Dave, while they're pending their contracts to be approved?
Or they're just going to get like the 18 million split up, although not all 18 million is going to football. For those that missed it, you get up to 21.5 million, and then Ohio State added 91 scholarships in different sports, the ones that are not getting any of the revenue sharing. So yeah, if you're going to play by the rules, if all these deals are getting shot down by anything that has to do with collectives across the country, according to this Utah State collective director, nearly 100% of NIL deals through collectives are being rejected. I mean, that is shocking. So if you're playing by the rules, I guess that means right now that you can just pay your players for Ohio State whatever percentage is going. Let's say 12 million of that 18 million is going to football. Maybe it's more than that. If you're playing by the rules, that's just, you can't spend more than that. And they spent 20 million last year thanks to the foundation. Right. Yeah.
The other thing that I thought was fascinating coming out of the Big 12 media days was Kenny Dillingham, Arizona State's coach. And I didn't think about this. He said there are a lot of coaches who are front loading a lot of these deals because they want to win now and get out into a better coaching situation. So he's saying there's a lot of coaches that are not happy with their current position, and they're trying to find a way to get to their next job. And they believe that being able to front load contracts and win now is something that will help get them to that next level where they want to go. I didn't think about that. I thought that was fascinating that coaches are viewing it in the lens. And it's almost like players want their money, coaches want to give them money so that coaches can go make more money. And it's just a hot mess right now.
Okay, let me get to a question here. Buckeye fan 80. Now, Deion Sanders, for those that missed it, came out yesterday, said he thinks there should be a cap. And, he's very player friendly. So that was interesting. He thinks there should be a cap for how much each schools can spend on NIL, which I guess is what they're trying to do. All right, Buckeye fan 80. J-Book, should there be a cap on this, and what should it be?
I don't know. I think there should be some form of a cap. I mean, you're seeing it all. This is basically semi-professional football. And so if you're seeing a cap, Dave, I think it gives you a little bit more room to be able to have straight up deals, and it kind of gets you back to the place to where relationships matter. Because if you're seeing a 5-star defensive end, 5-star running back, the most you're going to make is X. So choose a school based on who's going to be able to develop you, who you have the best relationship with. Because if you're just choosing it off the highest bidder, the one thing that's driving me crazy right now, Dave, you're seeing kids announce, these are my final threes. The day of their commitment, they're committing to a program who wasn't even in their final three, all because that program came in over the top last second with a huge offer. That right there is kind of where I'm like, all right, what are we doing here? Like if there was some form of a position or class ranking as far as freshmen can make this amount of money max as a cap, but I don't know if that would even hold up in court. And that's the thing that we just keep circling back around. The only way that you could potentially probably do a cap, Dave, is if you have some type of players union or they're opting in to say, hey, we're essentially employees or something, and we're agreeing to this.
You would need a CBA. You would need a collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah. So as we talk through it, I'm just like, well, it makes sense. I think it would help the sport. However, would that even hold up in court? And that's the thing that we keep turning back to, is because if one court comes and says, or one state, for example, New Jersey or Tennessee, Dave, come back and add legislation that says, we don't think that a player should be having a cap set on what they should be able to make in the open market, and you're not going to set a cap for kids who play in the state of New Jersey, what then?
All right, we're gonna turn the page and talk about is Ohio State gonna miss Will Howard this year, and then we're gonna talk about, are people sleeping on Carlos Loughlin's room? I tell you what, Carlos Loughlin is so cool. He's probably got several Gooder sunglasses. That's how cool he is. You guys know I love Gooder sunglasses. They're stylish sunglasses. They start at just $25 a pair. These are the Operation Blackout. You get a 1-year warranty, 30-day free returns. They're lightweight and comfortable, 100% polarized, no slip, no bounce. They have vibrant colors, sleek styles. There's a pair of Gooders for every personality. They're designed for both everyday wear and active individuals that love to run, hike, bike, and more. I play tennis in them. I ride roller coasters on them, with them, and they didn't fall off. And I didn't lose them. But if you need a new pair of sunglasses, Gooder is giving Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners free shipping. Go to gooder.com/Bucknuts. Use code Bucknuts for free shipping. Gooder offers 30-day money-back guarantee and 100% satisfaction. Again, that's gooder.com/Bucknuts. Use code Bucknuts for free shipping. You guys continue to buy Gooder sunglasses, and we appreciate that. They continue to re-up as a sponsor, so they're a great sponsor. I love their products. My family does, my friends, and good to see you guys are supporting our sponsors. All right, Carlos Loughlin. I didn't see this, but you brought this to my attention. It was on Bobby Carpenter's podcast. Was like, hey, man, people are sleeping on our running back room here. And to an extent, I get it. You look like you're losing like the best tandem of running backs we've ever seen at Ohio State, unless you are old enough to have seen Archie and Pete. I mean, it doesn't get any better than in my lifetime than Q and Trey together. So I get it. But then with James Peoples and CJ Donaldson and Bo Jackson, they're going to be more than fine at running back.
I want to say I love Coach Loughlin. Like, he is a hoot, man. That is one of my favorite coaches to listen in an interview because he's always going to give you a nugget or two, or he's going to say something that makes you smile. Like I love that he's a part of this program. Yeah, he was on the Bobby Carpenter show, and he had mentioned he was looking at some rankings of the top running back rooms in all of college football, and I guess Ohio State was down the list. And Lockett was like, "Hey, I'm competitive, man." He goes, "People are sleeping on my running back room. I got some boys that can play now." He said the one thing about my room, they're going to be tough because I don't want any soft batch cookies in my room. And on top of that, they're going to follow my lead. He was like, "We're going to come to work every day, and I can guarantee you that them boys will be ready to play." And I was like, yeah, I love to hear that. And I think people are sleeping on this running back room, Dave. I think when you lose two superstars at the running back position, it's kind of hard to say, all right, they're going to take a step back. But Lachlan is pretty bullish on this room. He sees something out of those young pups and CJ Donaldson that he thinks that people may be surprised how good this room is. I'm not going to be surprised because I think they have the potential to be really good. And the reason being is it starts up front. I think this is going to be a really good offensive line. To me, you probably have the best interior offensive line in college football. The tackles, we're going to see how that plays out. But when you look at these running backs, I think with Peoples and Donaldson, you're going to have a nice 1-2 punch, and then they feel really good about those next wave of guys. The thing that's going to help Ohio State tremendously, I think they hit a home run with CJ Donaldson for the simple fact is they saw something out of him. Bigger back, veteran back, has played a lot of football, but when he came to Ohio State, Dave, I think they're getting the best version of him. And it was in the boarding house this week that he's dropped a significant amount of weight, and he looks better than what they were anticipating coming in. Because when you look at him, he was probably playing at 240, 245 at West Virginia, still averaging about 5 yards a carry. He comes here, he gets into the Body by Mick program and drops like 20 pounds or something like that. He's saying he's running the fastest that he's ever ran in his life, all because Ohio State, once again, takes a player out of the portal and was able to transform their body and take their game to the next level. So that's why I'm looking at it. It's like, okay, we're going to get the best version of a CJ Donaldson running back who was already averaging about 5 yards a pop, I wouldn't say overweight, but playing heavy. I think you can have a situation to where he has the potential to really make a national name for himself. The biggest question is, okay, can James Peoples, what are we talking about here? They're comparing him to J.K. Dobbins. If we get a J.K. Dobbins type of running back here, and you're talking about a Carlos Hyde light with C.J. Donaldson, that's a very, very nasty 1-2 punch if it plays out that way. And then you start to fill in the depth pieces behind them, and then you probably have 4 or 5 guys, very young guys, very raw, that you feel good about. I think Sam Williams-Dixon coming back helps the depth in that running back room. I think he can play. I don't know what the opportunities are going to look like for him, but I think Sam Williams-Dixon is a ball player.
Yeah, that's good that he came back. You never know. Like, it wasn't that long ago where Ohio State was down to like their 5th running back when they're in the playoffs in 2022. And the Michigan game where that one year where was that also 22? Yeah, we're like training them, started the game. Like they were down to like train him and like Hayden at running back. All right, let's get to this. So I mentioned this earlier. So I have a really good source that we use for the boarding house, and he's very reasonable. And he's not sounding alarms on the quarterback situation. He just is a little concerned that the RPO game was so big for Ohio State last year and so effective. And Julian Sayin might be able to do that, but he's never shown that in high school. He hasn't shown it the little bit he's been here at Ohio State. Very small sample size, including during spring ball. You haven't seen him run a lot. Will was so good at that. And the source's point basically is like, listen, Julian Sayin's going to be a really good player, really good quarterback here, but when is he going to be there? And he feels like this year Ohio State's we're going to be missing Will Howard because he was so smooth in that RPO run game. and not just the run game, the RPO game, period, and the leadership. And again, Will Howard was not Will Howard until he was a fifth-year senior. So,
Right.
what are your thoughts? I mean, it's not a huge concern, but what
Yeah.
do you agree with what he said?
Yeah, and I look back at last year and Will Howard and where we're at right now, Dave, and I was thinking about the other day. I was thinking about at this time last year, my overall thought with Will Howard, because I don't know if we all thought that Will Howard was going to be as good as he was coming from Kansas State. But we all knew that there was a lot of talent. He had every weapon that you could potentially ask for a college quarterback. And so my thought process going into the season around this time is if Will Howard can just get the ball to the playmakers, this team is going to be very dangerous. I think I undersold the importance of the leadership that he was able to bring to the table. And a lot of those players have talked about it post national championship about how important Will Howard's leadership was, especially when things got rough there towards the end. You had a choice. You can go right or you can go left. Left could mean, hey, guys are playing for themselves and the season's pretty much a wash. Or you can go to the right and say, hey, we're going to band together as brothers and we're going to overcome this adversity. And Will Howard was kind of the face of that. And he was the one that was helping those guys go down that right direction. And I think I underestimated the importance of the leadership that Will was bringing, because the reason I say that, Dave, is because I thought the way Will Howard carried himself was a master class in PR in a place like Columbus, where the light is extremely bright and the fans are down your throat. We had never seen a situation where the starting quarterback at Ohio State volunteered to go and speak to the media every week. And you can attest to this, Dave. Usually Jerry will make certain players available and they keep it on a rotation. You guys ask certain players, questions. Will Howard volunteered to go and to take those bullets, win or lose. When it was bad, he will own it. And I thought that was very, very interesting because we had never seen it. And I go, this kid is putting on an absolute masterclass on how to handle it. And for him to come up and say, I have fully embraced being a Buckeye. I love being in Columbus. That went a long way. Now, fast forward to where we're at with Julian Sand. Is he there yet? No. Can he get there? Yes. In his own way. I think Jeremiah Smith came out and did like a quick interview, and he was saying Julian's finally starting to come out of his shell. He's talking about his personality, where he's more of a quiet guy, California cool, and he's finally starting to talk more. And I thought it was big that Julian Sane had organized that throwing session in California in his neck of the woods, where all of the skill position guys and Kinghost was out there throwing in Julian's backyard. That right there is a sign of a guy that's taking the bull by the horns. But he has to do it in his own way, Dave. It's going to be important. I'm not going to underestimate the leadership after I saw the way that Will Howard handled everything. It's one thing to be able to handle the pressure of being the quarterback on the field, but there's a lot of things that goes on off the field that you have to be able to manage as well as the starting quarterback here. And I have confidence Julian is going to get there. I mean, the talent is unquestionable. I mean, everybody has said his arm talent is tremendous. So that right there is God-given. He's going to be able to sling that football. And you look at the weapons that he currently has at his disposal, as well as Lincoln Kingholz, get the ball to the playmakers, but can you take the next step? That's why I'm curious once those open practices start, Dave, when you guys are out there with the media, how they divvy up these reps. I think it's going to be 50-50 because I don't think Julian pulled away enough in the spring for it to be like a 75-25 rep split with the first teams, especially the way that Ryan Day talked about how Lincoln Kingholz was really starting to come on strong towards the end of the spring. I think they're going to put as much simulated pressure on and off the field on these quarterbacks. They're going to chart everything. And I think we'll find out who the starting quarterback is a week and a half before Texas, because as you're going into that last scrimmage for the fall camp before they shut it down. Because you always remember Texas, that Texas game on Saturday, you start to do your prep on Texas on that Sunday. Once they go in there, that's when you start to really get your scouting report. You break camp. You're focusing on, okay, this is my matchup. Who is this kid? What was his ranking? What do they like to do? Let's look at film for what they were doing last year. Let's go back and break down the film on what happened when we played them in the playoffs. That all starts like that Sunday before the first game. So right before that, I think you're going to hear, all right, who's our starting quarterback? And as we're getting into that last scrimmage, that person is going to get the bulk of the first team reps.
I do love hearing Jeremiah Smith absolutely gush about Julian Sand. We all know game knows game. That speaks volumes, and that on top of what all the guys said at the combine. Will Howard talking about Sand, Emeka, even some of the defensive guys, Tuimoloau, Sawyer, Burke, Hancock, Lathan. They were all saying Julian Sand's going to be a dude. Again, everybody has the caveat. You might need to be patient as a redshirt freshman, but they all say he's going to be a dude. Jeremiah Smith didn't even say anything about being patient. He thinks that he's going to come out there and just ball out right away. So we'll see.
Hold on, Dave. Before we get off here, let me throw this scenario at you. Tell me how the national storyline will be, because Paul Feinbaum is already crowning Arch Manning as one of the best quarterbacks that we've seen in the last 20 years without him really taking the meaningful snaps. He started a couple games against some scrubs. What if Texas comes up here, Arch Manning is somewhat pedestrian, Ohio State beats Texas, and Julian Sand goes for like 320, 3 TDs, no picks, and we're just out there just slanging it. You think he's going to get that love over Arch nationally?
He better.
What do you think the storyline is going to be?
He better. Yeah. I think maybe I'll be wrong. I think Arch Manning's obviously like a good quarterback, but if his last name wasn't Manning, I just don't think there'd be anywhere near this amount of hype around him. I mean, he wasn't able to beat out in his second year. It wasn't like he was a true freshman last year. He wasn't able to beat out Quinn Ewers, who was a 7th round pick. I mean, we'll see. I think the jury's very much out on him.
That's why I'm so curious, because this first game, with it being the first game, Dave, is such a juicy storyline. Because if you're Texas, you're going to be looking at what Ohio State did defensively last year. However, you bring the wild card into it, which is Matt Patricia, and you're saying, will they even be running what Jim Knowles was doing under Matt Patricia? And if you're Matt Patricia, you're looking at this as like, this is an excellent opportunity for us to throw some stuff that we did with the New England Patriots at Texas and Arch Manning to see if they can decipher in a matter of minutes what we're doing to try to figure out how to break open this defense. It's going to be fascinating, and I'm curious because if Julian Sand outplays him, that narrative that Arch Manning is all world, I think that the heat really turns up on Steve Sarkisian, because you're looking at Sark and you're saying, all right, Sark, you're supposed to be a guru. You have what a lot of people are saying, a generational quarterback, and you just went up to Columbus against a kid who's in a quarterback battle, and you guys got beat back-to-back by Ohio State. I think a lot of heat's going to be on Sark, because I think the pressure's on for him right now. He has to win it with Manning. If not, that's going to be a huge, huge red flag on his career.
And their SEC schedule's tougher this year.
Yeah.
They had a nothing's easy in the SEC. They had a relatively, I'm going to stress that word, relatively easy schedule last year. Not the case this year. So it is going to be fascinating to see what happens with Texas. I love that Ohio State and Texas are leading off the season against each other. I know some people are like, why are we even doing this? It's just so exciting.
Still, it is, man. Hey, we're almost here.
I know. It's great. It's great. All right, we got Mika in all caps. She's so excited for the season. I love it. I love it. Mika has a show today. I believe she said at 5:20. So everybody check out Mika and Mello show, the Mika and Mello show. I don't think that's what they call it. But
you see my Bobcats might be going to the Sun Belt, man.
I did see that. Listen, if Northern Illinois is leaving and Toledo was flirting with leaving too, it's like Ohio better take care of themselves, you know?
Sad day, man. Sad day. I mean, those I mean, I know they probably can make more money, but holy smokes, the MAC has been around forever, man. I mean, those Tuesday, Wednesday MAC games, if you're a sports bettor, those was always some games that you can make a little bit of change on, but
maybe they can make a deal with Toledo and say, like, if you guys don't leave, we won't leave. Keep the MAC together. Because, I would not want to see the MAC get broken up. And having the MAC without Ohio University, they're the longest, as you know, the longest standing
charter member.
Yeah, they're the only charter member left. They're the only charter member left in the MAC. So losing OU would be huge. But I see why the Sun Belt would be interested. So we'll see what happens.
They're on the rise. I mean, I'd much rather see, somebody said it yesterday, Youngstown State get into the MAC. I would much rather see Youngstown State as opposed to UMass. I think if you can give Youngstown State some of those resources, I mean, it's not like there's a ton of money going into the MAC, but if you can give them a little bit bump compared to what they're getting right now, Youngstown State, they might be able to do something.
Yeah, protect the MAC, protect J-Book's MAC. And, you know, my daughter's going to be going to OU next year. So, like, that's so funny. She's going to be wearing OU gear. Yeah. She's a Buckeye, but she's gonna be wearing OU gear at the game, and my wife will be decked out in scarlet and gray, of course.
Always. What green she's staying on? She living on
which the one that has she's staying in. I think it's the one she wanted. What's the one that everybody wants to be on?
This is the West Green is over by the Convo and the stadium. That's the West Green.
I think she's.
I think the East Green is probably more modern, more, and where they redid a whole lot over there. So she's probably over there. South Green as well.
Yeah, I think she's at East Green. I think that sounds right. She's like, because there's actually, she didn't get it. There's actually a Biddle dorm on East Green.
No way.
Right down. Yeah. Is that where Tiffin dorm is? There's Tiffin.
Yep.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah, she's on East. She's on East Green.
That's the East Green. Yeah, it's. You gonna get down there for Father's Day weekend?
Oh yeah, I will. Yeah, it'll be weird going to OU and you know not doing what I did when I was in college when I would visit my friends there. I'll put it this way: I always had a great time, and I see why everybody loves it.
Right.
You don't meet one person that went to Ohio University and is like, it was all right. Everybody's like, I loved it. It's crazy.
I gotta get back there. I need to get back there, but their facilities are through the roof compared to what it used to be when I was there. I mean, they got a beautiful indoor facility and everything over there. So they're doing well for the MAC.
Oh yeah, and Eddie George at Bowling Green. How cool is that? That is so freaking cool.
Yeah, I forgot about Eddie being at Bowling Green.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully everything gets straightened out and OU stays in the MAC and Toledo stays in. Sounds like Northern Illinois is leaving, but whatever. Keep at least the Ohio teams in here. All right, great stuff from J-Book. I appreciate it, my man.
All right, so
great weekend, my friend.
I'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. He is the one and only Jonah Booker. Really appreciate his insights. It's so much fun doing the Friday shows with him, and we've been doing it a long time, and I'm going to do it as long as he is willing to do it. So it's awesome having J-Book on the show every Friday. It's awesome having him as a friend. You know, we were able to hang out in Arizona when I was down there. So just a good dude, and happy to have him as part of the Bucknuts family, which is nothing new. He's been part of the Bucknuts family for over a decade. I think that's about when we started doing the Friday shows together. We went to video, about 3 or 4 years ago? Before then, it was just audio only. I know a lot of people still just listen to our audio only podcast. We appreciate that. Appreciate all the people listen to or watch the live feed. But it's just awesome doing the shows with J-Book, and I really appreciate that. I love doing my Monday shows with Dan. It's a little bit of a hodgepodge on Wednesday. Sometimes I go solo. Bax is a somewhat regular guest on Wednesdays. I had Patrick Murphy on this past week. During the season, I think I'm going to try and have Steve and Pat on a lot on Wednesdays, just to kind of give, since we're the 3 beat reporters for the site, having those guys on. And then, but nothing's going to change as far as Mondays with Dan Rubin and Fridays with J-Book. And I assume Dan and the Poobah and the Dean are going to be doing their Tuesday, Thursday for the foreseeable future. So we just keep on chugging here at the Bucknuts Morning 5. So appreciate you guys a lot. Thanks to J Book. Thanks to you guys. Hope everyone has a great day and a great weekend. Go Bucks. Still basking.